Welcome to today's episode of Couch Chats. We are well and truly on a couch today.
We are.
Yeah.
You got shoes on my couch. And it's a white
You've
couch.
got shoes on your couch. Anyway, here with Glenn again, talking about relationships and red flags. Shoes on the couch, red flag.
Is that a red flag?
Or is that an ick?
I reckon that's an ick. That
Probably
wouldn't be a deal breaker for me.
It's not a deal breaker for me, as long as the shoes are clean.
Mm-hmm.
Mine are clean.
They look new. Mine
They
are
are
definitely
new.
new, so I think we're
we're
alright.
good. Yeah.
We're good.
What about like these kind of socks? Are they an ick?
Yeah, they look like, I don't know whether it's gender specific, but they look like men's socks.
I know. I'm very masculine.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You're strong.
Yeah. I mean my mascara.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
journey for you.
I like the journey for me too. Do you know how much more comfortable it is than dressing like a woman?
I can only imagine.
Heaps more comfortable.
I'd like to say I've never dressed as a woman, but I have once. Once. It was for a show though. It was for a show.
Was it the Rocky Horror Show?
No, it was for a show on a cruise.
Okay.
Had
Was
to
there
dress-
heels
I-
involved?
No, I had to wear lycra and had blown up balloons, this big, large breasts, and a big curly wig.
I have blow boobs too.
Yeah. You probably paid on the wall for those.
I did. Yeah.
Right. So red flags. Interesting. I reckon
Oh, there's my microphone.
we're not going to go there.
It's in there.
No, leave it alone.
Yeah. Anyway,
So we-
red flags. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess the reason we thought we'd chat about this is we both had a lifetime of relationships, as most people have, in and out of relationships. And I think you learn more about yourself in each relationship. I think once
Yeah.
a relationship ends, you kind of reflect on it and think about your part in that relationship, what maybe you contributed well and what didn't work so well, but also kind of looked at what your values are and
Mhm.
what is important to you in a partner,
Yeah.
which kind of leads us into red flags, green flags. How do you spot what it is that you really want? And I think for you to be able to do that, you've got to understand yourself first and foremost
Yeah.
to know what it is that you do want.
Mm-hmm.
What are my values? What are the things that I'm looking for? Which are the tick items, the green flags, as opposed to the red flags, the things I'm like, that's just not going to cut it anymore.
Yeah. And as much as it sucks going through relationships that don't work, it's taught me a lot about what I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what are the deal breakers for you?
Has a face.
What? Has a face?
I've been single for a long time. No, it's not a red flag. I'm just like being man, all these things. I'm kidding. I'm joking. I really am. I promise.
That's good.
Sorry.
I was going to say, because you're not going to get far.
That's why I'm single.
Because how long have you been single?
4.5 years.
4.5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, but it's made me be very selective, maybe a little too selective. I don't know, but I know what I want and I'm happy to wait for what I want. So some deal breakers that I've come across is that I'm separated but I'm still living with my wife. Red flag.
Well, I was in that situation and I feel like that may not necessarily need to be a red flag because in some cases, I don't even know, I'm a minute, Tiger. Sometimes relationships are over a long time before people are able to financially separate.
Correct, but I don't think you should be dating in that part of it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you're dating, you should wait until you are completely separate. How are you bringing someone back to the house that you're sharing? You know what I mean? Like, I was in a relationship where we were separated for a long time, had to sell my house, all of those things, but I definitely was not even entertaining the idea of bringing someone else into that situation. For one, you're not giving yourself any time to heal, and you're bringing them into a complete shit show.
Yeah.
Going through a divorce.
Well, I think that's the bigger issue. So I don't think it's necessarily a red flag if somebody is still living with an ex-partner.
Red flag.
I think the real red flag is that they haven't really had time. If you're living with someone in that same environment as I was, you can't heal. You can't heal until you're out of that environment.
You're not doing the work
that's the red flag. That's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think people need to heal from a relationship and sit with it and sit in a lot of silence and feel all the emotions and work through those emotions to get to a place where you are healed, and also a place where you know what it is that you want for your next relationship, so that you're not making the same decisions.
Yeah.
I think the biggest issue is people who come out of a relationship and feel that they need to jump straight back into another one.
Because that's what everyone says. The only way to get over someone is to get under someone.
Else.
And it doesn't work.
No. So when you're choosing the same patterns.
I know.
You choose the same people over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. So when I first broke up, I did go on dates. And I realised by
Why?
going on those dates.
Why did you go on dates straight away?
Well, because I was trying to fill a void. Like, it was just something that it was like, and I realised that was a really bad thing for me to be doing. I wasn't healed. And that just opened my eyes to how much I was so unhealed and not ready to meet someone else. But it was that, like, it was so hard to be single. And now I'm so content being single. I don't know how to be with someone else. Like, I'm kind of the opposite end of it. But I feel like the first 12 months is definitely, shouldn't be dating in that period. You should be healing. You should be healing yourself, because that first 12 months is generally chaotic.
Do you think anyone, if they're doing therapy in a relationship, can be healed before that relationship is done?
Well, then you're still going through everything that's, because I know that you went through that, right? You were doing like therapy and stuff.
That was with therapy.
Yeah. But then you're still going through the division of assets, all of those things. So there's still extra healing along the way until that is kind of finalized. And then you move into your own house and you do all of those things and you learn to be single. I don't think that you can really be content with anyone until you truly learn how to be single and know what you like as a person by yourself.
I agree with that. I think anyone, and this is just a personal opinion, some people may disagree with this, maybe an unpopular opinion, but if you haven't done the work, you haven't really sat with it and done your own healing, and you've jumped into something else, I think you have issues with codependency.
Exactly,
I think you've got to have someone there filling your cup.
Yeah.
You should be able to make yourself happy.
Exactly.
And that's what I learned, right? So I was in a relationship for a long time and thought that I needed that person there.
Yeah.
Until I was out of it and went through a lot of the emotions, and then when actually I don't need that person, I wanted that person, but it didn't work out. And now I've realised that I'm actually happier on my own.
Yeah.
But I also, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I look back on that relationship and think, if I had have known then what I know now, I wouldn't have gone down that path.
Same, like I've been in relationships since I was 14.
Wow.
Yeah. So my high school love had 2 children too.
Yep.
And then when we separated, I just kind of went straight back into relationships because I so desperately wanted to be married. I had children already. I wanted that white picket fence. Like, I just wanted to be married. So it was just this like revolving cycle of, you know.
Did you feel pressure to do that?
Yeah, 100%.
Where do you think that came from?
I won't say too much on camera. Yeah. Yeah, but definitely from people around me. Being a single parent was something that was heavily frowned upon. Even when I was pregnant and not married, I had to wear a wedding ring on my finger to pretend that I was. So there was a huge expectation.
I think society plays a part in that.
Yeah, to be married because I had children, and it was a huge lack of worth for me thinking I'm a single mum, because there's a huge stigma around that, being a single mum, especially I had my first child at 17. So I think that by the time I was 21, I was a single parent with 2 children. So I just wanted to have a husband. So I just so desperately wanted the marriage that I chose anyone that accepted my situation, because I got told my situation would never be accepted. So I was like, okay, they accept the fact that I have children. I will settle for the fact that they accept that, because I should be grateful for that. So that was something that has taken me until this last relationship to realize that I don't need that. And I think when you make decisions out of thinking that you need something, that's when you make the wrong decisions. So I'm in a point in my life now where I don't need a man. I don't need anything else other than myself. There is the want for it, and there's a difference between the need and the want.
100%.
So when you don't have that need anymore, and like I said, I haven't been intimate with anyone for like 3 years because I don't need it. It's a want, it's a desire, but I'm very much in control of that need. So, yeah, and I think you just make better decisions when you remove the need for something and it's a want instead, because you're making better choices.
So it's interesting that your green flag then was you just accept me that I've got kids. That was a green flag for you.
Yeah.
So how has that changed now?
Well, because
you've obviously done work, you've done therapy, you've unpacked all of this.
I haven't done therapy as such. This is just my own work that I've done myself. But it was really acknowledging my worth as who I am and what I bring to the table, because every relationship that I was in, I was still the provider. I was still everything. And that's where it's like, I felt like every time a man came into my life, I went 10 steps backwards in every sense, particularly financially, because they became like another child to me.
Right.
And I had to support them.
So you were earning more money?
Yeah, I was. But also I had to just be the one working 7 days a week. I was always the one like paying all the bills, like doing literally everything. But yeah, so the work that I've done on myself is realizing my worth, and that I don't need a man in my life to be what society perceives as being successful. Because I based a huge part of what I thought successful was being married, owning a house, like having all these things. So,
and by you having that expectation for yourself,
yeah,
then you settled for potentially
I settled for the wrong people
who wouldn't have been the provider that you needed.
They weren't anything that I needed.
They weren't giving you your needs really. You were just settling.
Yeah.
A green flag. You accept me, so great. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. Green flag was like, sweet. She's, they accept me. I've got children. That was basically it. And I didn't even look at the fact, like, did they have a job? Did they have a car? Like, they didn't have these things. So I became like an extra mum to them as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my green flag, is that they accepted my situation. Whereas now I know that that situation is nothing to be ashamed of. That yes, I have 4 children. Yes, I'm a single, independent woman. There's nothing wrong with that.
Because you said there was a stigma before.
There was
a stigma. Do you feel that stigma still exists?
For other people, yes, but not for me anymore. That's the difference. I don't hold that stigma for myself now, whereas I used to. I used to be very ashamed of my situation. Whereas now I'm like, no, this is me. Yes, I have 4 children of 3 separate fathers. That is my life.
Do you feel you were judging yourself?
100%.
Do you feel that others were judging you?
Others were definitely judging me.
Okay.
Which made me judge myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for all men, but I don't think, commonly these days, especially at our age, if you're meeting partners, they've got children in our age, right? So 30s, 40s.
I was having this conversation yesterday.
Most people have kids, right? So this is the common age that, I think we looked at this last time we were chatting, for men in their 40s to go through separations.
Yeah.
And to be looking at new partners. So then when you're looking at new partners around that age, they're coming with certain baggage. We all have baggage.
Yeah. I have this conversation often though, because I'm very much like, I don't want to date anyone with children. And everyone's like, but you've got children. And I'm like, yeah, but I've spent my whole life raising children. I don't want to raise someone else's as well. Like, it's a hard one. It's really hard because I love that family unit. I've always wanted to have like a big family. Yeah, we're at that age where it's either have children or they want to start a family, and I'm definitely not ever being pregnant again. Like that is off the cards. So yeah, that
but
becomes
is there
a
anything wrong
challenge.
with you having that perspective?
No, I don't think there is.
No.
Yeah, it just makes it a bit more challenging. So I don't know. It depends on.
I think that's completely fine to be clear on what it is you want, and that's part of what this chat's about.
Yeah.
Working out what it is that you want to attract into your life, and that is the red flags, the green flags for you, and avoiding the red flags, which in our 20s and 30s largely be ignored. Because I've worked out now in my mid 40s that looking back on my relationships in my 20s and 30s, that I was making the same decisions. My green flags. Well, my green was more of the green flags. I was looking at who is as a kid, I was for most of my life, quite a chubby kid, quite an unpopular kid, you know, went through a bit of bullying and whatnot. We've talked about that. So I didn't really have a lot of relationships when I was young.
Yeah.
So I sought out, and I know I did, looks and chemistry first.
Yeah.
So if someone was attractive, I'm like, oh, look what I've got. Look at how pretty my girlfriend is.
Because
and it was less about the inside and their heart, which is so much more important to me now.
Yeah.
But in my 20s and 30s, I'm like, you know, mates would say to me, oh, you're punching, she's hot.
Yeah.
And I would be like, well, you know, look at how well I've done. But I really wasn't doing well because I was choosing the wrong ones. I was choosing women who were beautiful, but they weren't aligned to my core values. I was denying my religious beliefs. Yeah. I was denying my myself the kindness that I think I deserved. Mm-hmm. Sometimes in those relationships, they weren't particularly kind to me. They weren't particularly nice or nurturing or loving or affectionate women in a relationship. But I'm like, oh, but look at her.
They're so pretty.
But they're so pretty. Whereas now I'm not looking at, in this phase of my life, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at who do I connect with, who has the same religious belief as me, who is passionate about a career. I don't care what it is, but you've got to have some level of passion.
Yeah.
Who is kind, basic kindness, who is caring, who is nurturing, who is loyal to a fault, who is always going to have my back in a room that I'm not in, who is committed, who is completely honest, who is faithful. You know, there's been a lot of cheating from partners in my life, and
same.
That's that's not me. I'm fiercely loyal. If I love you, I love you with everything that I am and all that I have to give you. I'm not accepting that. All of those things are so important to me now, and literally every time I meet someone now, I'm kind of going through and I notice I'm ticking the boxes.
I do that too.
And it's becoming so theoretical.
Yeah, I do the same.
As opposed to me just going, well, waiting on how I feel, but I think I always got myself in trouble. Now I'm much more alert, which is why I'm looking for green flags and looking for red flags so that I don't make another mistake.
I do the same. I mentally tick boxes, and it's like, I don't know. Yeah, there's this like mental list, but I never went for looks. That was something I never went for. Someone pointed out to me recently, they called me a sapiosexual, which I very much am. Like, it's depth of conversation, intelligence, like that to me is what I'm attracted to. And yeah, there's not a lot of people that I have that connection with, which is okay because I'm happy to wait for that connection with someone. But that mental checklist, it's like, it's hard though because I'm still sort of a little bit unsure about what I want, but when I meet people and start like ticking those boxes, it's like, oh, maybe. But
have you started making a list? Do you have a list?
I do have a list.
Do you?
I wrote a poem like years ago.
Jeez, that's
to my husband, like years ago.
Wow.
I forgot about it until now. It was like, dear future husband, blah 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 blah. Not that I think I'll ever.
Is it still accurate now to what you want?
It wasn't describing him so much, but it was like along the lines of, like, I know that person is out there somewhere, and it was about drinking tea, and like they're looking at the moon, I'm probably looking at the same moon at that moment, like both drinking like that tea, and like just these like scenario things. Yeah.
So all you need is just someone that likes to look at
No. There's a lot more into it, but I'm not going to go into that on camera for the whole world.
I think we need to know.
No,
the love of your life might be out there. Who's listening to this going, I feel like I'm Bex's soulmate.
No, I don't think I have a soulmate.
Why?
I don't see a man in my future anymore. But I was going to write a message in a bottle and like chuck it somewhere and just see if it like one of those like movie moments where you put this like little thing in a bottle.
Tom Hanks with the long beard's going to find it.
Real sound. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a tricky place to be. I think I don't know. Whilst some people can jump into things very quickly, I think people can settle very easily.
They do,
especially when they're not knowing what they want.
Right? To start with, it's really, I found it
when you first
really
come out of something, it's hard. But
yeah.
then when you work through the emotions and do some of the healing, it does become easier.
Oh,
but then where it gets hard is getting back into it because she's so picky.
I'm so content being single now. Whereas when I was first single, the silence in my house was deafening. I didn't know what to do because I had 4 children. So I went from a house where there was like 8 people in it to nights there by myself, just going, oh my God, like what do I do? Like it's so quiet, I don't know what to do with myself. So that was really hard, but now like, I'm such a loner. Like I went to, where did I go yesterday? I went to Double Bay, then went for a walk through Neutral Bay, then I went to Watson's Bay, then I went to Manly.
All the bays.
Yeah, and I don't invite people. Like I just go places by myself because I love just being in my own company.
So good.
So I'm at that point now where it's like I think about if I'm getting into a relationship again, and the little things like how am I going to sleep in a bed next to that person? I'm going to be so awkward, like waking up and having like that morning breath or like.
Who says you have to? Sleep in separate rooms.
That's that's weird.
Some people do that.
What's the point of being in a relationship if you sleep in separate rooms? That's a flatmate.
Well, I know people who do that just because one party snores and the other one can't put up a story or something.
Yeah, that's different though, but is that every night? Well, they just come together and do their biz and then go into another room?
Probably, I reckon.
I sleep with a 7-year-old every night.
Because I don't like, I can spoon for a period.
Yeah.
But then I have to do the Ross from Friends and do the rollover.
Yeah, I'm like, get off
me. Because I'm like, it gets too hot.
Yeah, I
get hot in bed.
I can't deal. Yeah, no, Indy, my daughter, sleeps in my bed every night. So I can't imagine.
That's pretty hard to have a man in your bed then.
Well, yeah. So
there's a child in bed.
I know. Well, no. Why there's no man in there? But she's very hot-bodied as well, and like, yeah. So I spoon her, but
do you think it's harder for women later than men to find relationships?
Why would it be? Because men let themselves go more.
Not really where I was going. I think because I was having a couple of conversations with some mates recently, and I was saying I think if you jump on the apps, right? I'm not hugely into the apps. I've had a look at them. I don't know. Well, I don't know what it's like for women, but there seems to be so many women on there. From what I've seen, we were scrolling at the pub recently and having a look, and there were so many on there. Beautiful looking women.
They're stunning.
But struggling to find someone, and some of them were saying that they've been single for a really long time. And I hear this, that women say this is why I'm asking. Do you think it's harder for women, and maybe why is it so difficult for women? Is it because women now are saying at this point in their life, I don't need a man, so I'm just not going to do it? Or
I don't
become really picky that they're not willing to settle? Are all men dickheads?
Mostly, yes. No, I won't say all men are dickheads.
Challenge you on that. I've got knives here.
I don't need to say all men are dickheads, but going back to the apps, so I've got it set to men and women because I wanted to see what the other women on the app were like as well, because I've had this conversation with people and you see the women on there and they're stunning. Like they really present well, and then you see the men.
Yeah.
That it's like, what am I working with here? And there's like, for me, someone who's attracted to very intelligent, kind of nerdy people. I like to have intelligent conversation, and I cannot have a conversation with these people, and there's no substance there. And then also, I'm so busy that, for me to go on a date with someone, it's like, I need it to be worth my time as well. I just feel like there's no connection there. This is just my perspective. I think it's easy to find someone if you have no standards. And there's still a lot of people that would just easily find someone. It's easy to be in a relationship if you're not as picky, but I'm very picky. Very picky. Yeah. So I get asked on dates all the time, but I don't go because I haven't met anyone that I want to go on a date with. Yeah, because it's that need versus want. I don't need to go out drinking and partying with people. I'm more content in my own company. And if I was going to go on a date with someone, I want it to be someone that I see something developing into, not just there to have a one-night stand or. So for me, it's very challenging. I can't speak on behalf of other women because I feel like I'm also very different to other women. Whereas, like I said, I haven't been intimate in like 3.5 years because I just got better shit to do. I'm out making money. Like, I'm rebuilding my life. Like, I'm more focused on my goals and my vision and my work and what I do as opposed to meeting a man. So, yeah.
Well, that's your values right now, right?
Yeah, it was always
so your focus is, well, yeah. So if that's important to you, then maybe that's not as important. But I do hear that women say they struggle to find someone when.
And
when
what do they
older,
say?
so.
What do they? Can I put my foot up here? Is that okay? Yeah. What do they say about that? Is that they think all men are dickheads? Is that their reasoning?
Well, I posted something on socials a while back, and I asked why we think the divorce rate is so high in this country.
Yeah.
And majority of those who commented were females, alluding to the male being the problem, and that was quite triggering for me.
Yeah.
And it was for mates of mine, because I refute that in any relationship breakdown that it's always the male that's the problem. I think there's a collective. I think it's joint, that both parties have to make a relationship work, or both parties, one party can obviously destroy it. I believe that's the case if there are issues with that particular person.
Yeah.
But to blanket that males are just a problem, I think is
you can't
highly
blanket. You can't blanket anything. You can't just say it's one sex that's doing all the wrong things. All I can speak about is my personal experience. And what I have found is that the men that I have met, and I'm not saying all men because I have 3 sons and they're my favorite people in the world. But for me, I'm better off without a man because they've not brought anything to the table. And I see a lot of videos on TikTok from men saying this, that men are not bringing enough to the table anymore. The woman's running the household, they're looking after the kids, they're going to work. What are the men bringing to the table?
Yeah, I disagree with that. And the reason I disagree with that is I think that women are making different choices now than ever before. And I think that's okay. If women want to work and want to have careers and all that, which, I'm 100% on board with equality. But I then think it's really unfair to say, well, the man isn't bringing enough to the table when the man is doing what the man's always done. So
does the man need to change?
Well,
because women are changing?
Well, I think it depends on the relationship and what you want out of a relationship.
Yeah.
We can't just say because women now want to work and do things differently that men need to change. Well, I think that's unfair. So if we go back to...
I don't think it's unfair.
Where relationships started, you think of hunters and gatherers, as we were talking before.
Yeah.
The male would go out and provide for the family, while the woman would bear children, raise children, pick berries, and look after the family, right? Now, there was very clear roles and responsibilities in those relationships, which is why those relationships potentially worked. If we go back to...
But were they happy?
Well, do we know that?
No, but we're not cavemen anymore.
But this is what I'm saying. But we don't know that. So,
we know
that in the past the divorce rate wasn't what it is now, and we're very clear on roles and responsibilities.
When
we're trying to now
change. Times?
No. Even 40s, 50s, 60s eras.
Because in the 80s, compared to now, it was actually higher in the 80s than it is now. If you look at the divorce rate.
Divorce rate was higher back then, 100%. But also you look at population. So population is a lot more than what it was in the 80s too. But we're a growing population globally. I think males. I think we're copping a really tough run, to be honest. I think women are becoming stronger in themselves, which is a good thing, but then it's becoming a lot about men bashing, and that's the issue that I have.
I don't think I'm men bashing. This is just my experience that I've had to be the one that stepped up. I'd be happy to step back if I had a man that stepped up. That's the thing, and the women that I speak to that have been in this situation is that they have to step up because those men haven't.
But could it be potentially they've chosen the wrong men?
Yeah, it could be that too. That's what I'm saying. It's not every man. This is just my experience and the ones that I've spoken to. And unfortunately, the videos that I see on TikTok there's a lot of that happening.
But this is just TikTok, right? This is not real life.
Well, this is real life. This is going on TikTok.
Well, clearly, but it's not. I mean, TikTok doesn't speak. It doesn't speak for everyone, right?
It doesn't speak for everyone.
And this is a problem too. Things like TikTok and even Instagram.
Yeah.
They're curating messages, and people are taking those messages as gospel, just because they're creators, right? These aren't coming even from expert opinions. These are just people like you and me who are like, men are shit or women are shit, blah blah
Well,
blah, and people going, oh yeah, I've got the same.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone is shit. But
that is happening a lot though.
It is happening a lot, but today's economy, it's kind of hard unless you earn a lot of money for just the man to go to work, right? Yeah. I think that puts a lot of pressure on one person. If it's just the woman going to work or just the man going to work, that puts a lot of pressure on that one person. I know the pressure I have, you know, being the provider. It's a huge amount of pressure 100%. To me. Whereas if there's two people contributing to that, because the way the cost of living is now, like to have one person take care of everything,
it's awful.
Is hard. And then if you're the woman at home, being the only one taking care of the kids too, I've done that too. That is so hard as well. So it's like, where do you find that balance that maybe you can both contribute in a way that takes a little bit of pressure off each other?
Agree.
To make it work.
Agree. The only thing I would add to that is workloads and things comparable. So does that mean the woman is working full time and then having full time?
She wants to.
But then is she full time and then looking after the kids full time? And is he full time? What are the hours and things? Because I think
I don't know. Are you writing a list? Well, for me, I can only speak for me. I work full time. I'm a full time mum. But that's me. I've always done everything. Even when I was in a relationship, I was still working full time through all of my pregnancies. My last daughter, I was back at work at 10 weeks because the person I was with didn't provide financially. So I can only speak on my experiences where I've literally had to do everything. So I don't know any other way to do it. So I don't know the balance on that, and I guess that's probably an individual thing that someone would have to come to an agreement with. Like, are you both working full time? I know couples that both work full time. And that works well.
And do they share responsibilities for the kids?
But that's it. If you're both working full time, then you would have to share those responsibilities with the kids. You'd have to share the housework, right?
100%.
If the man's working more, then clearly the woman would be doing more of the domestic duties. Or if the woman's working more, then the man's doing more of the domestic duties. So it's not like a 50-50 split. It's balancing the tasks so one person isn't heavily burdened with everything while the other person's just chilling out over here.
For sure.
Drinking mojitos.
You
know what I mean? It's got to be.
But there's a problem in a relationship if any one person, and I think it's Brene Brown who talks about it. What we talked about this before, what you're putting into the relationship. Now you both should be adding equal amounts, and not in at all times will you both be capable of doing that.
Right.
Sometimes you look after each other. But there has to be effort from both sides for a relationship to work.
That's right.
So and that's a green flag for me now.
It's
in every aspect, the effort that I put in, I want that to be reciprocated. Because if I'm the one putting all the effort in, I'm not bothering anymore.
And also, it's like, it could be like you're putting in all the effort for work, right? And then the other person's putting in all the effort for something else. And that's fine as long as there's both that effort there and that equals the same contribution. And that's what I have found has lacked for me, is that people I've been with, that they don't have that drive or that motivation, or they don't want to put that effort. So you're choosing people with
no drive though?
Well, that's right. It's my choices that I made. These people that I've met, there wasn't an equal contribution on my end. It was very heavily me, and because.
Would you communicate that with your partners, or would you just take it on and be?
No, I did communicate. Maybe not as well as I should have, but there was a resentment as well because I had to do everything. So I just I'm better off on my own. So each time I was like, I'm better off on my own. I'll just do it myself then, without the extra person to take care of. But my situation was that I owned the house and all the rest of it, and these men would come into my life thinking, sweet, I can just quit work. She's already paying the mortgage. She's already cooking dinner. She's already doing all the things. I'll just slot right in. And I think women potentially do that to men as well. They're like, he's already got a house, he's already got this, I'll just slot right in there and, cruise along for the ride. So,
well, I think if we generalise, I think your story is probably the lesser of the generalisation.
It's a very small percentage.
It's a small percentage, right? Sure. So majority of the time, because we are raised to be the provider in our household, we go out, we work, we earn money, we buy the house, we pay the bills, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't mean women don't contribute. If they're bearing children, that's their contribution. If raising up children is bloody hard. We both know that. But also, if they choose to work, that's hard, and then managing all of that's difficult. Where it does get tricky though is, and we've talked about this a lot, is if we do make bad choices and we end up in relationships that aren't serving us, which we both have, and those relationships dissolve, the problem is in most cases, and this is not an unpopular opinion, and people will probably be livid hearing me say this, but the man does get shafted majority of the time because of the way our court system works. And where I think this is grossly unfair is that we spend all of our time working really hard to provide, be great providers. If you ask a lot of therapists, they commonly say that the reason from a male's perspective that a marriage breaks down is that there isn't any affection or intimacy in their marriage anymore, because for various reasons, when kids come along, it becomes complicated. When they're working a lot, it's complicated. There's lots of things that can kind of take us out of our relationship. They're not getting their needs met. Same is for the female, not getting their needs met. But what happens when that relationship breaks down is the court system says, great, well, you either have or haven't worked. We're going to give you majority of the financial assets split because you have the children. We're also then going to give you custody of the children. In a lot of cases, it gets quite ugly, and there are games and things, and the male ends up not seeing their kids at all. So they've lost majority of their money. They struggle to put a roof over their head, which they were always able to do. They've lost access to their kids, which is why they did that to begin with.
And then they're paying child support.
Then they're paying child support. They're completely stricken. So, and I read just before we came on here that 150 in 100,000 men end their life based on that through separation. So that's 40 males in Australia per week taking their life as a result of that. And that is disgusting and has to stop.
I think the court system is changing a little bit.
Slow.
It is very slow because they're not just favouring the mum like they used to, because it used to be always just the mother instantly had the children. I think they're looking at circumstances a little bit different, but I know people that are going through this at the moment and they just assume as the woman that they're going to have the children, and it's like, but why?
That's right.
Why should you just have the children? Like, you're both the parent. They need the mum. They need the dad.
100%. And there are a lot of deadbeat dads out there, or deadbeat mums too, right?
There's a lot of
on both sides.
Both,
But most will say instantly, without even considering it, that the male's the one with the problem, so the male shouldn't have kids. And I know this from a fact. For a fact, personally speaking, my lawyer throughout my own process was saying to me, take whatever time you can get with the kids, because what you've then done is proven through to the court that you are not a risk to your own children. That is wrong. Why should a father have to prove that they are of no risk to their own children? And women,
women don't have to prove it.
Women don't have to prove it. But women are very quick to say, oh, he was abusive, and they love using that. He was abusive, because then they know the court will go, okay, you need to prove to us that you're not abusive now. And that costs then 150, 200K to prove in a court that you're not abusive to have your own kids.
But
so the men's already lost all their money, they've lost access to the kids, they don't see their kids. And that's true too. The ones that are abusive, different story, right?
But it's the people that are falsifying this, saying that just to get access to their kids.
And it happens so often.
And they do that to manipulate the court system, because they know that they can get back at the man by using the kids against them.
Absolutely.
Vice versa as well, but
it's so common.
A bit more of a minority when it's on the other side, but
we do need to save 40 men a week from taking their lives throughout this. Males and females. Why can't, if a relationship breaks down? So you haven't looked at the green flags, you've ignored the red flags, you've got into this relationship, which is crap. It's an awful relationship, the dynamic's horrible, it's toxic, you don't get along, you don't love each other in the end, you leave. Why can't you go, great, this didn't work, you can have 50% access to the kids because you're a great mum and you're a great dad without the games.
Exactly.
Let's take 50-50 split on the money. Let's move on. Let's build our lives again.
Well, I did that in my second relationship. My first one, we had no assets anyway. It was just, and they didn't want the children more because I'm like happy. Please help a little bit.
Take them. I want some time to myself.
Take them. Take their children. But my second relationship, like, we're 50-50. And when we separated, I owned the house, he had a business, and they're kind of worth about the same. And I'm like, I'll keep my house, you keep the business, easy, let's walk away. It was so equal, because to me it was never about the money. I didn't.
Do you have a relationship with him now?
Yeah, like we get along really well.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, and we co-parent like really well. We were just talking on the phone yesterday about it all, and like we get along really well.
Because it was fair and amicable.
But also, it was when that relationship broke down, it was, when you just, like, we weren't right for each other, and I knew we weren't right for each other. And I said that to him, like, you deserve to be with someone who loves you the way you deserve to be loved, because this isn't, like, we're not right for each other. So why stop that person from being with the person? Even the first relationship, like, they're both married now and with the people that make them happy. And I can acknowledge that they deserve to be with that person that makes them happy, because you love that person enough to let them go and be who they need to be. So, yeah, like, just let people be freaking happy. Like, if you don't like that person,
it's fine.
Like, that's okay. Let them. Everyone deserves to be happy. I never went through court because I cared more about my children. I wanted them to have a relationship with their dad.
You're a good mum.
I'm a freaking awesome
You
person.
are. You're a rock star mum.
I am. And so...
But you're putting your kids first. And so often, women who do the wrong thing... And I don't understand it, because I think...
don't understand it either.
They're the father of your children, and the children are suffering.
That's it.
They don't get it. And in the long run, I think they will be the ones, the kids who suffer in the long run. But also, I think the woman in that situation will suffer later, because she'll see that the kids have an issue with the mum for doing that to their dad,
but
when it could have just been easier.
Children will grow and get older, and they will start realising their parents' traits, and kids aren't stupid. They work things out in their own time. But for me, like, it was so important for my children to have those relationships with their dad, and because I love my children so much, all I cared about was them being happy, taken care of. I never fought for money. I never, even the last one, like, I just gave him money. It's like, you have it. I gave him enough to set himself up. He didn't, unfortunately. He gambled it.
Comes down to choices.
I was very fair. Like, I have lost everything financially from that relationship, but I was also like, you paid the mortgage, like my mortgage, for this amount of time. Here is that amount of money back to you, because that's what you put in. You can have that out. He walked into that relationship with absolutely nothing, but I still gave him money from that relationship. Whereas I know women now that are going through these separations, and they're offering their ex-husbands nothing, and it's like, how can you do that? How can you go through court and offer them absolutely nothing? Like, their contribution meant absolutely nothing. It's so bad. That's the stuff that pushes people over the edge.
100%.
Yeah.
Look, I just think it can be so much more amicable, and your example just further evidence is that if you can amicably split even, then there's a chance that you can have some sort of a relationship going forward and co-parent well. Which gives you both an opportunity to start again, and your kids are going to be okay. When relationships become quite toxic at the end, and one party or even both just can't find a way to make it work or be amicable, there's friction that then is felt by the kids.
Oh, for sure.
And then it makes it so much more difficult to get to a position where you can both walk away equally with your head up and go, well, that just didn't work. Let's move on. We're both great people. Move forward. It really frustrates me the more I read on this. And we talked about the whole feminism thing last time, and women are getting stronger. There is a lot of men bashing at the moment. That's what I'm struggling with.
There is a lot.
Because men aren't shit just because women are getting stronger. Because I think women are getting stronger in, standing up for themselves, and they should. I really, genuinely, 100% agree with equality, but that doesn't mean that men are shit just because women are standing up for themselves. So I think we need to get back to showing compassion to what we both bring to the table separately. And as you said before, maybe some of yours weren't providing financially or whatever, they weren't meeting your needs. Potentially you're choosing the wrong ones, right?
Oh, for sure.
So now you know yourself.
Which I know that I was choosing the wrong ones. Like I said, I just accepted those people that, accepted my situation. So I wasn't looking for all the things that I value. I wasn't, again,
and what you deserve.
Religion, morals, ethics, standards. Like I was like putting my blinkers onto that and not even paying attention to those things, because it was like, oh, they accept my situation because I just want a husband. I just want to do the right thing and, tick that box that, I've got the house and the husband and the kids and, make everyone happy and prove to them that I'm not this shit person that they think because I've got a husband. So very aware of why I ended up in those situations. Hence taking a long time to sit back and reflect and get to know myself again, because when you spend so long with someone else, my mum and dad turned up the other day and I went, you guys realise that you are literally dressed exactly the same? I'm like, you were that couple.
Well, that's a bit cute, isn't it?
I know, but it was like...
They've morphed into each other.
I know, but you know, when you spend so much time with someone that you kind of like take on their traits and everything, and being a mum since I was 17, I never really thought about what I wanted and who I was. Like, what do I like? Who am I? You know, and then I started going on dating apps, and these guys would be messaging me going, what are your hobbies? What do you do for fun? I'm like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
So it's taking that time to really work out who I am after thinking about other people since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Since I was a kid.
So you're invalidating your own needs and wants and trying to make everyone else happy, which...
Well, I didn't even think about myself for that whole... My son's 25 now. So it was probably like 21 years. All I thought about was, you know, my kids and my partner. And, you know, like didn't think about anything that made me happy that whole time.
You know what this is now? It's your second chance.
Yeah.
To do over.
It is.
It's now time for anyone who maybe is watching. If you've come out of something, I think it's important to sit with yourself, as we've said, for a period and heal through whatever you've been through.
But that's like date yourself. Like I date myself all the time. Like I take myself.
You set yourself to all the bays.
I do. I take myself to all the bays. Like I would literally go to the rocks and do like little bar hops just by myself, meet random people, like dance.
Great.
I take myself out all the time because, I mean, I'm not going to be ready to date anyone unless I know what I like, and you need to know what you like. Because how's anyone else going to know what you like if you don't know what you like? Yeah, and spend that time to get to know yourself. And this is something that I think men and women, when you become parents, you spend so much time on your little people because we love them so much that you kind of forget what you like as well. So even if you're in relationships, you know, work out what you want. It's hard to do that, but take that time.
And you can do that in a relationship too.
Yeah.
If the relationship's not going so well, I'm always a big fan of trying to work through things if the other person is willing, because if you're both willing to work through something, you can make it work. Yeah. And you can grow together. The person that you were at the beginning, you may not be at the end. And real people like your folks who are dressing alike now.
So cute.
You know, they would have obviously had times that were more challenging in their relationship where they didn't get along, but now they've reached a place because they've worked through all that stuff.
But that's what you know, I've watched my parents who are obviously still together, and it was never always like peachy, and I had these different ideas about relationships, but they've gone the distance. You know what I mean? Like it's not all about lust and intimacy and all of these things. It's so much deeper than that. It's like someone that I was speaking to on the phone before this, their wife was in another country, she had a medical episode, and you know, there's things in relationships that happen where the other person's sick and like they need you, and you need to be that support person to them, and it's not just about sex and how they look and all of those things. It's about like you might have to wipe their ass when they're sick one day.
Yeah.
But that's,
later on in life, that's probably the reality,
that's the
right?
reality is like, you know, that love has to go so deep that, you know, you might have to do that for them one day. Where it's
Are you prepared?
Yeah. Like, how deep is that love?
How deep is your love? Oh, it's always time for some BTs, isn't it? But no, I agree. I think the healing is important. Yeah. You know, jumping into a relationship, that's not a healthy thing to do. That just shows you need to work on yourself, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I think then working out what it is that you want, your own values, what's important in your future partner. What do their values need to be to make sure they're aligned, which will help hopefully with some green flags to figure out what are the things that I'm looking for. Avoiding some red flags, maybe make a list of what your red flags are. I mean, and you also said X.
Well, hang on, red flags though, like basic red flags is if they're mean to you, they call you names, they're abusive, like they're obvious red flags, right? If someone's an arsehole to you, it's a red flag. Someone shows you who they are, believe it. Yep. You know, lack of communication, lack of respect, all of those things, they're red flags. X, yes, there is X.
But go back to that for a second, because I used to argue this point with an ex. Fighting is normal, and fighting is healthy in a relationship.
No, fighting is not normal. Communication is normal.
No, I disagree.
No,
I disagree. And I think I think this is where we're getting really unstuck in relationships, because if we look at our parents, your parents would have fought. My parents fought. My grandparents fought.
What do you consider fighting? Do you think disagreeing is fighting?
Yeah.
So is this a fight?
No.
Because we're disagreeing?
No, I don't think it's a fight.
So what would you consider a fight? Because me, when I think about fighting, it's yelling, screaming. That's not healthy.
I disagree.
I don't.
Yep, I disagree.
No, I disagree.
And I've had this conversation with my therapist about this, that fighting is healthy because you're passionate about things, and sometimes you're not. Communication, yes, is really important, but you don't always hear each other, and you don't always understand. And fighting, you know, in the old days, my folks and my grandparents and whatnot used to fight, and they get really mean towards each other, but they'd always come back and love each other, and they'd always apologise and repair things. And I think that's part of relationships. Whilst you'd rather that didn't happen, it does happen. You got two flawed human beings who are very passionate, coming from different places, who don't always agree.
Yelling and
sometimes.
Okay.
Well,
I think you can argue and disagree with each other without getting to a certain point. I think effective communication in a relationship is really important. Like, express yourself, be passionate about it, but yelling and screaming at each other, that's toxic shit.
But I think things get toxic when people aren't listening and they're not understanding.
But that's not effective communication then.
I agree.
Yeah.
But this is why I think people need help to do that.
Yeah.
And both people need to sign up to get better at that.
Yeah.
My parents, I know, used to fight when I was a kid, but now they love each other more fiercely than ever. And I think they went through tough times. Having kids is tough.
It's so hard.
Dealing with kids, dealing with finance, dealing with cost of living, as you said before, that's all tough.
Yeah.
You're going to fight. That is normal.
But I think there's a way to fight. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, but
I'm not a yeller. I'm not someone who gets like. I don't yell at my kids. Like, I'm not a yeller. If someone yells at me, I'm out. Like, I'm out. I'm gone. Like, if someone wants to talk to me about an issue, I'm like, sweet, let's talk about it. Like, that's cool. Like, I'm a talker. I'm like a little, I'm a little bit feisty, but I'm not a yeller. I'm not someone who, slams doors and like throws things. Like, I don't like that. I'll get a bit fired up internally, and I will talk about it. And I might get a bit flustered, but like, I'm not a yeller, I'm not a screamer, I'm not that person, because I am comfortable to sit down like this, have a conversation, be like, hey, you're pissing me off.
Yeah.
Like, you're annoying me. I don't like this, what you're doing. I would rather have that and just be so open and honest about the communication. And I don't think it should get to a point where you're yelling at each other.
But if you're yelling, what's the emotion?
Well, then you need to control your emotions better. Go punch something. Go punch a box.
No, because I think that's probably a healthy alternative. But you're angry, right? Anger is a normal emotion.
Yeah, but there's a way to express your anger.
But people do yell and people do scream when they're angry. That's a normal part.
Raising your voice. I don't think yelling and screaming is normal. I think raising your voice to express yourself, maybe, but yelling and screaming, I don't think that's normal behaviour. Yeah.
Personal opinion, I disagree.
Yep.
I disagree because I think but it comes back to also your own tolerance and what you're willing to accept. If someone yells and screams at me because they're really angry at me, if it gets to that point, I don't think anyone starts that way. This is the thing. I think if you're fighting, you're disagreeing, and you can't get to a point, we all know that relationships can become more heated, where you can yell and scream. I know I've done it plenty of times. I know that my exes have done that. And I'm okay with that, as long as we can reach a place where we recognise that behaviour and go, all right, let's take a time out, let's come back and we can have a conversation. That's normal. And I don't put conditions on how I expect you to be in a relationship either, because if that's who you are and you're trying to express yourself, I don't want it to be a conditional relationship based on you have to toe the line or be who I expect you to be.
Yeah.
If you're feeling something, if you've got big feelings, you're trying to get them out, you need to get them out. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree. So my second person, him and I used to just sit down like this. Like, we never yelled, we never screamed. Actually, it's just the only ones that have yelled and screamed at me have been so toxic. Like, I'm so not a yeller and screamer. That would be a red flag for me. That'd be a non-negotiable. If someone's yelling at me, I'm out. I'm done. Yeah.
It's definitely not a red flag for me. If a green flag for me is someone who genuinely loves you, who loves you for who you are, where it's unconditional, and they'll fight for you forever. Where they are loyal.
Yeah.
We can't be, as human beings, perfect. We will never be perfect. I'm far from perfect. My partners in the past have been far from perfect. I'm okay with that.
I don't expect
what I don't
perfection.
accept. What I don't accept is them to be unloving or uncaring, or they're deal breakers for me. If you yell at me because you're angry, I'm okay with that because you're angry, because that's a real emotion for you.
Oh, I can get angry.
And my exes have yelled at me and called me nasty names and whatever else in the heat of the moment. They're angry. I accept that.
Yeah.
But after, as long as they can come back and go, oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. As long as they can own it and say, I shouldn't have said that. I don't want to upset you. I'm just upset. I'm like, I'm okay with that. And
I feel like we need a professional opinion on this, as to what's healthy and what's not.
Well,
Stephen over there in the corner like, me.
Stephen can certainly weigh in, but
Come stick your head
I get it. It comes down to what you're willing to accept and what you're willing to
I will not accept yelling and screaming.
I grew up in a family where my mum and dad did fight, and they did yell from time to time.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it as unhealthy because I knew they loved each other. And I saw them repair. I saw how much they loved each other.
If it's from time to time, like if it's a very rare occasion.
Not if it's every day. If every day or every week you're just yelling at each other, of course that's not healthy. Your kids shouldn't witness that.
If there was like once a year that you like, you're an asshole, get away from me. Like, maybe fair, but not, I'm still not yelling. I'm 11 at the fire.
And it's good that you're 11 at the fire and you're not a yeller. So
I go to the gym, I'll punch a boxing bag instead. Like, I know how to like release things, and I would rather, in the heat of that moment, like if you're pissing me off, like cut out now, to be honest.
Am I? Am I?
A little bit.
Good. I like this.
But I would normally be like, you know what, I'm just going to go to the gym, and I would process how I was feeling, and then I would come back and I'd talk about it.
So you're not pissing me off at all, even though your opinion's different.
Yeah.
Because I think it's okay for people to have differences of opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's it's healthy. We spoke about this before. I think as a human race, we've lost the ability to be compassionate towards others if their opinion differs.
I think the reason why I'm getting triggered by this is because I've just come from a very abusive relationship. So that's why for me, when you're like yelling and screaming is normal, to me that's like such a trigger to me. So it's like...
Well, that makes sense.
So that's why, like for me, I'm like, that's a non-negotiable for me, because it just brings back trauma from that. So...
Well, that just... To me, the way I view that, because I've experienced that in the past, is two people aren't getting their needs met, and they're fighting, and they get louder, and they get potentially more nasty at each other because they're not being heard and not getting their needs met. That's what it comes down to. So, and that's not in all cases. There are certainly situations where someone is actually just abusive, and they're just a horrible person who just, you do nothing, and they just come at you, and they're really horrible and demeaning and tear you down to nothing. Which is inexcusable, but I don't think relationships where people genuinely love each other and are fighting, and then they yell because they're fighting and they're passionate, coming from different places and not hearing each other, I don't think that is necessarily unhealthy. If they do love each other and repair, and they get better at having conversations with each other, right? I think it's only unhealthy if it gets really bad and it's toxic and there's a pattern of behaviour where someone is a serial abuser, and certainly in your situation, it sounds like you're in a situation that was really tough, that naturally you would feel that's that's a trigger for you, and that's a red flag for you.
It is a red flag.
But I do believe, because I've seen it, and I've seen it with people around me who are still together and more loving than ever, who have fought that way, and they're not abusive. They're just really lovely, genuine people who just at that time were going through stuff that got fired up because they weren't getting their needs met, and they were struggling.
Do you think that? Okay, so that's your normal, right? You perceive that as being normal, but...
I don't think it's normal. I just think
But do you think there's a better way for them to potentially communicate in those relationships?
I think there's always a better way to do things.
And I think that's my point, is that, you're like, that's acceptable to you, which is okay, because that's, your opinion and your relationship type. But for me, I would think that there's far better, more effective ways to communicate, to meet each other's needs before you get to the point of yelling and screaming. You know what I mean? You're at that point of yelling and screaming. What led up to that? What can you do prior to that
100%.
to not even get to that point?
Yep.
Because you should communicate well enough in your relationship that you can talk it out before getting to that point. Like if you're in a healthy relationship,
that's the point.
Yeah.
If you're in a healthy relationship,
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship with a narcissist or somebody that displays narcissistic behaviors, right, and there's patterns of behavior, if they have this grandiose thing about them where they think they're always right, they never apologise for anything, you're always the problem, they always put all their problems onto you, they gaslight you constantly, they're manipulating you, and a lot of the time it can be covert.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation with my mates.
Yeah.
That's happened in relationships with them. So then when they start standing up for themselves and they're still not being heard and they're still being gaslit and all this horrible behaviours they're in that relationship, then they're yelling, and there's a term for that, reactive abuse, where they're reacting, maybe not in the best way, but they're being triggered because of how they're being treated. That's still going to exist, but does that make that person wrong for reacting when the other one is displaying those sorts of behaviours?
I don't say that it's wrong to react that way, because I've reacted in situations too, but that relationship's wrong to start with. So what I'm talking about is...
no one should date narcissists.
No, in a healthy relationship, I don't believe yelling is normal, because I don't think that you should ever get to that point where you are like so fired up that you are just like, you have to yell at that person. I feel as though in a healthy relationship that you communicate well enough and you know each other well enough that you can just sit down and talk things out. Like you should be meeting each other's needs enough not to get to that point. So in an unhealthy relationship, and these people that are still together may not have been the healthiest relationship at that time where they're yelling. Like just because they're still together now doesn't mean that their way of communicating has been effective either, because I don't think...
of course, there are always more effective ways of doing things, but when you're in your early 20s, let's just say back in those days, my parents' era, in their early 20s, having children, having minimal financial means, working really hard and not being able to almost provide at that time, it's highly stressful. When people are stressed, when they're pushed to their limits, they don't always act their best selves.
So let's break that down. Why they push to their limits? Because they're not meeting each other's needs. They're not in a healthy environment necessarily.
Not necessarily. They're struggling to make ends meet, right? So if you the example, the Paul Kelly song, To Her Door. If you listen to the words of that song, they fall in love. It's a really beautiful story at the beginning, but then he loses his job and things kind of turn to shit, and then he starts drinking a lot, and then they start fighting, and then she takes the kids because she doesn't want the kids in it, and then he turns up, she thinks that he's changed, and that stuff's still there. He's struggling because there are things. Life can be challenging. People don't always handle it perfectly, and they don't. And I think we're losing our sense of humanity and accepting that people are people and they're doing their best. I don't think anyone
people are people,
wants to...
and things happen in life. Like unexpected situations happen. Like COVID, like people losing their jobs, like people are killing themselves, like shit happens all the time and it pushes people to boiling point. I get that. Like there's the word extenuating circumstances. Did I say that right?
Yep.
So there's things in life that come up that push people to their limits, right? But I'm talking about like on a day-to-day basis of what's acceptable and what's not. Like in that situation, losing your job and things like that too, but like Paul Kelly, cool, but like is hitting the bottle the best solution to that problem? You know what I mean?
Of course
like,
not. Of course
there's
not.
better ways to deal with things, and that's where, like, we're at our age now, and I'm at the age now where I've done the work. I've got the tools that I put things in place now in my life that, I'm never going to handle anything perfectly, but I can do my best to find different ways of handling a situation as opposed to yelling and screaming at someone. In my early 20s, different situation.
But I guess what I'm saying is not everybody has the tools or the skills. Now, males, if I raise my voice, we're more intimidating than women. And women will say, you're abusing me or whatever, because we appear to be more intimidating because we have deeper voices. If we raise our voices, I think we're getting very, it's almost, we've got to be treading on cotton wool. We've got to be really, really cautious with anything we do. And I think we need to get back to a place where we accept that we're all fucking flawed as humans. We're not perfect. We do our level best with what we have at that time, and it may not always be the best, but as long as people are well-intentioned, they do things for the right reasons, and they always want the best, and they genuinely are good people,
Yeah.
We've got to cut some people some slack for what they know and who they are and what they're trying to do, and help people to become better people.
Oh, for sure.
Like I would certainly do things differently now that I'm older than what I would have in my 30s, and even in my early 40s. I'm learning all the time. We all are.
Make mistakes.
But right? I just don't. With everything I've been through in my life, I just don't have any judgment on anyone else for how they act, react, decisions they make. On their relationships. I don't know enough. I haven't walked in their shoes, so I try and be really careful on passing any judgment on anyone unless I've lived it.
But I guess you need to know that person in that relationship too, and if that person was on a daily basis the most loving, supportive husband, and then something really bad happened in their life and they yelled at you one time, like I wouldn't hate that person for yelling at me. I'd be like, they're going through something.
Yeah.
How can I support that person in that moment? Because they're going through something pretty hectic right now.
Yeah.
So, that's different.
Yeah.
As opposed to someone who's just an asshole all the time, or every time anything comes up in your relationship, you can't talk about it. They're just yelling at you. That's a different situation.
Yeah. I've got an old friend who yells a lot. Like whenever I was around, he would be yelling a lot, and largely at his kids, and not all, largely inappropriately. And I, for a long time, had a really big issue with that. But I had to sit with it for a second and think, whilst that's not the right behaviour, I don't think he has the skills to be any different. His communication style is not great. He struggles to put a lid on the anger. He's quick to fire. And I think there's skills that he needs to learn, and there will come a point where he has to learn to be different. But I still don't judge him, because I think I've not lived your life. I know him really well, but I don't know what he's gone through. He's had a pretty tricky past, and now I know he's doing his best. He's trying to provide, and he works hard, and he's put a roof over the family's head, and he pays the bills, and definitely more effective ways of managing that. But I still don't have judgment. I just think
I don't judge other people in their relationships, but for me and what I would choose for myself would be very different to that. Like what other people accept in their lives.
So back to green flags and red flags.
We get off track there.
We get back. We pulled it back.
Yeah. So green flags. Green flags are men who have done the work.
Good.
Personal growth, self-development, someone who knows how to meditate, who's not afraid to sit down and be like, I'm going to go do the thing. I'm going to go do the work.
Yeah.
Like, that is, I admire that in a person that has acknowledged that they could potentially do things better, and they're proactively doing things to make themselves better. And I think if someone's doing those behaviours, that's a green flag, because I've made mistakes in my life, but it's like, am I choosing to better myself every day? Yes, I am. Am I doing the work to try and find more effective ways of doing things? Yes, I am. We all have off days, we all have bad days, but green flag, someone who's doing the work, takes that time to get to know themselves, steps back, reevaluates, and realizes that maybe they were a red flag in a relationship. I would say I've been a red flag in relationships too.
Oh, we all have. And if you can't admit that you've been a red flag in a relationship, you're not being honest with yourself.
You are a red flag.
And you're a walking red flag. And you have a lot of work to do if you don't believe that. Because I've definitely been. But I think anyone who ends up in a relationship with me long term will be very happy, because I've done that work. Yeah. And I think you have to do that work. You
have to do that work. Even if you're in a relationship, you should, it's
people
hard.
Don't. In a relationship, people don't.
I think it's really hard when you're in a relationship, because I feel like it's only when you take that step back from an outsider looking back in that you can really reflect.
Yeah.
But I think, if people in relationships did the work, then relationships maybe would, last a little bit longer than they do.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So that's definitely a green flag. What are other green flags? Has a job.
Yeah, can provide. That was one of yours.
Has a job, has a car, has a house. They're like tick, tick, tick. That's, they're green flags. What else is a green flag? I don't know. Oh, it's a tough one. Good values, good morals.
Mine are similar to yours. I think it's somebody who
ambitious, motivated.
Yeah, ambitious, motivated, but somebody who has done or doing the work and wants to be better. Someone who's really kind. Someone who's compassionate. Someone who's loyal. Someone who is honest, faithful. All the things I mentioned before. Somebody who is independent. Someone who is independent. Who I don't want codependent relationships. I want someone who has their own life, who just enjoys coming back and spending time. Someone secure within themselves. Someone who is secure functioning in a relationship, not someone who needs rescuing all the time. Someone who is that anxious style, who needs to be told all the time, to be reassured. Someone who's strong enough in them because they've done the work and they get themselves and know what they bring. They don't need to feel insecure in the relationship, to know that they're loved. You know, that's all really important to me. Someone who's loving, someone who's affectionate, someone who, the most important thing for me, this is the pinnacle for me. It's someone who knows how to and sticks to their boundaries. And is respectful of boundaries. Because I've been in too many relationships now where people think that, you know, I can be disrespected because someone else gets to, take something, basically be involved in a situation they shouldn't be in without fighting for me. That just a boundary, I don't want to get too personal with that, but a boundary has to be, no, this is us fighting for each other against the world. And then second to that, our kids, we look after our kids. Then whoever comes after that, enmeshed boundaries just never work in a relationship.
And also, like, boundaries from, I think this is kind of what you're saying, but outsiders' perspectives as well, that, you know, they're not in the relationship, they don't know it, and they have opinions, their opinion, and it's like,
and they're never right. They're never right.
I had a situation where my son, like, spoke up about his relationship and, like, put some boundaries in place. Kind of different. I didn't realise I still had his ex-girlfriend on my Instagram feed.
Right.
And he was really angry. He's like really upset. How can you disrespect my new girlfriend like this? And I was mortified. I'm like, I genuinely didn't even know that was there. Like, I don't go through my old Instagram account, and I was like so sorry that I did that. But I was like, I respected him so much for going, you know what, that's not okay. Take it down now. And I was like, done. Like, and I was genuinely so sorry because I didn't know that it was, you know, and I think that's so important to have your partner's back like that and be like, that's not okay. You don't treat them that way. You know. That's really important. And stand
so what are yours? What are people watching?
What are
Put
yours?
In the feed.
Red flag, green flag. And what are your icks? Farting in front of me, burping in front of me, like just.
I'm like, okay, you can fart and burp in front of me. I'll laugh.
Oh my god, no, that's.
I'm so chill. I'm so easygoing.
No, look, an accidental fart is different. Okay, that's like different, but no. Oh god, I just don't want to ever like touch them anymore and just. Like, I don't know.
You don't want to touch anyone because they farted?
Yes!
Oh.
It's such an ick to me. Or, do you know what I do?
Well, that's not an ick. That's a red flag for you.
Do you know what my
that's a deal breaker.
Do you know what my own ick is? Like, I'm so gross, right? Because I'm single. I'll be at home. In my trackies, in my PJs, and I'll be like slothed on the lounge like this, and I'll have my food on my chest and just be eating. And I'm like, if anyone saw this right now, like, I'd be such an ick. Because I'm just like sitting there, like such a slob.
See, I disagree with that.
What? That's not gross?
No.
Dropping it on my boobs and then eating it back
But if you ask me what I would prefer, low maintenance, high maintenance women, it would always be low maintenance. If you're laying there like a sloth but you're comfortable, I love that. If you're in your trackies, I love that. I would take I would take a woman eating food off her boobs in trackies any day over a woman dressed up to the nines with a full face of makeup and a blow wave hair.
Yeah, okay.
Any day of the week.
Yeah, because I look homeless most of the time, let's face it.
The homeless looks in.
Yeah, I love it.
Green flag.
I'm in my
Green
comfy
flag,
era. In my comfy era. What's another ick for me? I had a whole list of icks. I don't know, what's one of your icks? What's an ick?
Smoking.
Yes, that's an ick.
Actually, that's not an ick. That's a red flag.
That's a non-negotiable
That's a non-negotiable.
Actually, I don't like alcohol. I'm okay with every so often.
We're gonna weigh alcohol up there.
Yeah, but like I will have say gin and tonic once every blue moon kind of thing. But binge drinking, excessive alcohol, I don't like it.
Yeah,
that's an ick for me.
Fair.
That's an ick for me. Because
that's a lifestyle value too.
Because I'm all about health and fitness, and so that's important for me. So a green flag as well is someone who's active, takes care of themselves,
doesn't drink too much.
Yeah.
It's healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. Every so often it's okay, but yeah, healthy diet, healthy lifestyle. Because
I concur.
Gut health, everything, mental health, it's all
linked.
It's all linked in together.
Yep.
Healthy mind, that's a green flag. So again, sapiosexual here. Yep.
Alright.
I've been on my dating profile lately, and I've had these people going, well, you've taught me something today because I had to Google that, and they're like, clearly I'm not for you, and I'm like, no, you're not.
Again, they could be the love of your life.
No, not if they're dumb.
But who says they're dumb just because they know what a sapiosexual is?
No, I'm not saying that they're dumb because of that. I'm saying, like, if they're...
Look, the fact they knew how to Google it, I says that they're not dumb.
Look at the phone.
I could be a doctor. I could jump on Google. I could find my
No, I mean, I didn't know what a sapiosexual was until, like, a year ago when I met a guy that was very intelligent. I was like, sweet baby Jesus, like, okay, this is my thing. Like, did it for me.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
All
now I'm already getting all like, whew.
So she's gone from being pissed off to now, like, getting hot flushes.
Like, get it off! I'm hot.
Right. All right.
But intelligence isn't just like book smarts.
There's loads of
perspective of intelligence.
There's loads of intelligence as well.
There's loads of intelligence. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good chat. Good times.
I want more of your icks.
I don't think I have any more.
Oh my god, you have no standard.
No, I do. I have strong values, and I know what I want, but
like, if I start you picking my nose, is that not an ick?
I wouldn't care.
Oh.
I'd be laughing and going, it's a bit gross, but just don't put it on me. But if you do, I'd still laugh.
What about...
I'm like, oh, that's gross.
What about... Okay, ick for me is someone who doesn't like manscape. You know, keep everything tidy. So if
are you saying I need to start waxing or shaving?
I haven't seen you.
No, but I know.
I don't want to know what's going on down there. Okay, but for a woman, I need to focus. Now I'm just picturing you naked.
I did once have. You're welcome. An ex-girlfriend who said that to me though.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not a manscaper.
No, I'm a manscaper.
Oh, you are. Yeah. So, like, is a bush okay on a woman?
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Why?
What do you mean why?
I was watching a movie the other night. There was so much bush.
Look.
How do you even know what's going on there? Does it not like?
Well,
give you a rash?
Are they doing some like some trimming at least of this bush, alleged bush?
No, I'm talking about like full bush, like George W. Bush.
But like not doing any work down there at all.
Nah, just like a la natural.
Well, I think that's very uncommon.
Well, I'm just saying, like.
Well, yeah.
Is that not an ick?
Well, it's probably a bit of an ick because that's a lot. At least a bit of trimming.
So hair's okay.
Hair's okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it's good.
I spent so much money on laser. There you go.
Hair's fun. So there you
really?
go.
I don't think hair's fine. I don't like having any hair on me at all. Like I could do a Britney and shave my head.
Do it.
Stop it.
I've got clippers upstairs.
No,
Should we do it? That's how we end.
No, we're not doing that.
I'm actually going to shave mine this week.
Are you like actually going to shave your whole head?
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep.
Okay. Is this like a midlife crisis thing, or like doing a Britney?
Probably doing a Britney.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. Why don't we do like? I think we could just do that now. Done. See ya.
Bye. We want to be